Do It All Dad here. Today we're going to be doing a basic functional alignment that you would perform after you've done some work on a vehicle like suspension components or tie rods, where you really need to make a gross adjustment so that the vehicle is drivable and maneuverable on the roadway, so that you can get to a location where you can get a computerized alignment done. And the way that we're going to be doing that is with some materials that most people would have lying around the house. We'll use some clamps, a tape measure, pieces of straight material. Today I'll be using a couple of strips of half-inch plywood so that they're nice and straight. We can get some accurate measurements using this material. In this case, I've got some plywood, and we'll be clamping them onto the rotors, sticking them out from the front and measuring the distance between the two and the directions that they point. Alright, so the first thing we're going to want to do is get our steering wheel back to straight. As we can see, that one looks pretty close. This one looks like it's towed out quite a bit. And a good way to help eyeball it is to look down the length of the vehicle to get us close. Okay, so making sure that our jam nut is backed off of the outer end so that we can adjust it. First thing we're going to do, we're going to clamp this piece of material on the outer edge of our rotor. And you got to be careful because some of the rotors are not attached directly to the hub. If the caliper is in place, it should be pretty close. As you can see, this is going to affect our toe approximation somewhat. Make sure that it's against the knuckle here so that we can get correct measurements. And what we'll do is we'll keep the piece of material sticking as far as we can go straight out the front so that we can measure the ends and the differences between those two, how close or far apart they are. Alright, so the first step, what we can do is we can look down the length of the vehicle. We can see approximately what line from the rear wheel the front wheel should be straight. It's hard to tell from this camera angle, but that piece of material, the plywood, is out, toe out, so we'll have to adjust that to bring the toe in. On the passenger side, we can do the same thing. Looking down the length of the vehicle, this also looks toe out, so we're going to have to bring both sides of the toe in, and we'll keep eyeballing it until we're pretty close. Then we'll get our tape measure out and compare two different locations on the wood material to see how accurate we are. Okay, now on the passenger side we've got some toe out, and what we want to do is rotate the tie rod out so that it backs out of the outer tie rod and separates it, pushing the toe back in. And what you can do is keep an eye on that clamped piece of material and see how far it's moving. You can get fairly close just by looking at it, eyeballing it. Okay, so we're on the driver's side now, and we're going to repeat the same procedure. We're going to because we have toe out, we want to bring the toe back in. We have to force the tie rod out this way, so we're going to back the inner rod out of the outer rod and force those two apart. Alright, now that we've got our alignment eyeballed approximately, we'll go to the next step here. We'll get it as close as we can get it. We'll use our tape measure, and then we'll measure as close as we can to the rotor here. And then we'll also take a measurement out here at the outer edge between our two pieces of material, that point to this point, and we'll want to get the distances between those two as close as we can get from here to here. That way, with respect to each of the two wheels, they'll be true with on their toe. The total toe is probably going to be off a little bit. That's okay. We'll get that fixed. We just want to make sure that the wheels are straight with respect to each other so that the vehicle is drivable. doesn't really matter which point you use as long as you're consistent. So I'm going to measure to the outer edge here of the material, since on the other side, the end of the tape measure is sitting on the outside. 59 and 5/8. Now we'll bring it to the outer edge, being careful not to pull, depends on how rigid your material is, but we want to be careful not to pull the material closer to one another, because we want to measure as close as we can the distance. So we're pretty close here, about 59 3/4. So we're pretty close. That should be good enough to take the vehicle now, get a proper alignment done. And finally, after we've had an opportunity to take our vehicle in to get a computerized alignment, we can see how well we did on our approximate toe alignment. From the left toe to the right toe, we had a total of 0.35 degrees off, actually within specification, so that's great for being able to make sure that the vehicle is drivable before we put it back onto the road and take it to a shop to get the computerized alignment done. The steer ahead was considerably off. That's fine. That's when the wheel will be slightly crooked, even though the vehicle will be traveling down the road straight. That can be corrected during the alignment process with the proper tooling. And this is what it looks like after the alignment had been corrected. As we can see, the left and the right toe are now in specification. The total toe has been corrected just a little bit better than what we were able to achieve, down to 0.15 degrees. And then, of course, the steer ahead was corrected to be within specification as well. And that's it.